So I see it's 7 p.m. So I don't know if everybody has joined already, but we will start and people can still join if they want. So my name is Natalie and I'm working for the Better Project as a research assistant. So we are gathered here tonight, I should say, for a webinar on physical activity, T1D challenges, motivation, resilience. And I'm really happy to introduce to you Sebastien Sasseville. So Sebastien holds the distinction of being the first Canadian living with type 1 diabetes to conquer Mount Everest summit. Since then, he achieved a monumental cross-country run across Canada, a journey of 7,500 kilometers, which is equivalent to running 180 marathons in 9 months. So that's pretty incredible. Most recently, he tackled the grueling race across America, widely recognized as the world's toughest ultra cycling challenge. Through his extraordinary journey, Sebastien embodies, of course, resilience and personal triumph, inspiring deep reflection, motivation, and action. So welcome, Sebastien.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
And thank you. And we also have with us Amélie Roy-Fleming, who's a member of the Better Project as well. She's been a member of l'Ordre professionnel des diététistes du Québec since 2007 and a certified diabetes educator since 2010. She has worked with various communities, including Indigenous populations, and she pursued a master's degree in nutrition with a focus on physical activity in the context of T1D. Since 2018, she has been coordinating the development and the studies around the support platform from the Better Project at McGill University, contributing to the advancement of knowledge and the promotion of best practices in diabetes self-management. So welcome to you also, Amélie.
Thank you.
So tonight, I should say this webinar is free and open to all, but usually it is reserved for the Better Registry participant. Before continuing, I should say if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, please use the Q&A sections below your screen, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the presentation. So I was saying, usually the webinars are for the Better Registry participants. What is the Better Registry? It's the first registry of people living with type 1 diabetes in Canada. It gathers anonymous real-life data on T1D, and it helps researchers to better understand the life with T1D and also address important issues for people living with type 1 diabetes. Why you should participate? Well, you can share your reality with T1D, and you can help us advocate for better access to treatments and technologies. It only takes 15 minutes of your time. You can then access to all our webinars and their replays. And as a bonus, you have a chance to win a $500 prize. So if you want to know more, you can scan the QR code on your screen, or you can go on our website. So let's go on. Amélie, I guess it's your turn now.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. So Sebastien, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. I think your journey has been, or has the potential to be inspiring, and already has been, and it's I'm looking forward to our discussion so we can share with people listening tonight. To start off, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself? When did the type 1 diabetes diagnosis arrive in your life?
Yes. Good evening to all. Really happy to be here. So my name is Sebastien Sasseville. I'm 44. I was diagnosed with type 1 when I was 22. So I've lived literally half of my life with diabetes. And when when I was diagnosed, I was not really active. That's an important part of the story, as that guy was picked last every single time in sports in primary school and high school. I'm not from a very athletic family. Like my parents are not the type of parents who ran marathons and did that sort of stuff. Um, and I'm primarily an endurance athlete. So throughout my 20s, I started to get a little more active. I discovered a love and natural abilities, I guess, for endurance, and racing, running, cycling. So a lot of the comments I make, please know that my expertise lays in that world, endurance racing. So I'm not a strength athlete. I'm not a power athlete. I'm not a sprinter. Yeah.
And so you've started doing this endurance sports during your 20s. Was this before or after your diagnosis?
Good question. So that's definitely after. I was not active, social butterfly in university, um, um, spending a lot of time at the pub, and it was fun, but not the healthiest lifestyle. When I was diagnosed with type 1, and a lot of people have heard me talk about the first step and one step at a time. Diabetes was my first step. It was my first one step at a time because it's not like it was an elimination and I decided to change my life. That is not my experience. So, but I just thought, you know what? I've got this disease. Ultimately, it would be much better if I led a more active and healthy lifestyle. And I started slow, and runs got longer. The mountains grew higher. And before diabetes, so I I had a lot of very big ambitions, but no structure or discipline whatsoever. It was all about the summit. I say that very with a lot of humility. Um, I was focused on the summit and not the process. It was all talk, no action, right? And so diabetes took me back to the basics and to humble beginnings and to just you can't run a marathon, just go run 5K, 2 kilometers, right? And then slowly, I discovered another world. I met people who were active. I met people I started my journey in endurance racing in the world of triathlon in Ironmans. So I met people who were with type 1 who were racing Ironmans, and I thought that's so cool. I want to do that too. And they looked fit and happy and healthy, and they got up early in the morning, and it was all like a new world to me. But it was very appealing, and I wanted to be like them. So that's how my journey in sports started, definitely after diabetes. So it wasn't because of diabetes, but you could say it was a catalyst, and it put me on the right path.
So it's quite amazing. So I understand that with your diagnosis, you sort of decided to live a healthier life, use the discipline that is required by type 1 diabetes to be able to do bigger maybe or challenges. That's quite impressive. I'm sure it's not always easy. We'll have a chance to talk about it.
Oh.
So we put together some slides, and once in a while I'll just like bring back to the theory and what we know in the different studies, because physical activity does have a lot of benefits for people that have diabetes and for people that don't. It can even increase life expectancy, improve the sleep, improve the fitness level. Some of these benefits, you can feel them right away or on the long term, for instance, by lowering the risk of diabetes complication, because exercise has even more benefits for someone that has type 1 diabetes, although it might bring additional challenges. It can help reduce the insulin needs. and extend this honeymoon period, which is the period right after the diagnosis where the pancreas still secretes a bit of insulin and the person doesn't need to inject as much. So it's so those are what we find in the literature as benefits. Would you say these are things you have felt? Are there other benefits you get out of it?
Yeah. And you're preaching to the choir, right? So, of
Exactly.
course, I mean, to me, exercise is huge. Exercise can be intimidating, and I don't want people to listen to my story and feel like they're not doing much or enough. Again, I started very slow, and you don't have to climb Mount Everest. Movement is a word that I like even more than exercise because you age the way you live, right? So there's exercise is non-negotiable. You have to, whether you have diabetes or not, you have to exercise. But an healthy amount of exercise is actually not that much. There's a big difference between high performance and just exercising for well-being, for general fitness, just for longevity. Like, trust me, I'm aging, right? I'm not 20 anymore, and my body is sending signals that it needs a break. And a lot of my training now is about holistic health and feeling good and not being stressed and longevity and living well. And so that's really, I want to put things in perspective. It does, I find it has a big impact on it's a double-edged word because it can physical activity comes with its challenges, managing type 1 during exercise. But then I also find it makes my diabetes control a little easier as well. Your muscles have that VIP pass, they can grab sugar without insulin. So I feel when I'm consistent, when I'm exercising almost every day, my highs don't go as high. Like you've got that that safety net. The body is going to absorb like the last 2 or 3 units. Let's see the pump. So definitely helps. And then I see lower risk of diabetes related complications at the bottom right, my right at least. This is really like diabetes does not cause any complications. Poorly managed diabetes causes the complications. Now, if you had type 1 diabetes, but you could live 60 years with your blood sugar at 5.5 24/7, which is impossible, by the way, but there would be no complications. You know what I mean? So it's very important to exercise is one of many tools, a very powerful tool to improve diabetes control. And it's all about time and range, right? How much time do you spend in an healthy range in terms of blood glucose? That's going to determine if you get diabetes complications or not.
Mm-hmm. So there are some, so this is sort of a long-term benefit of physical activity, these complications on the day-to-day. When you say you feel if you train every day, it might simplify your management, like living a routine, like a more routinely life might help with the management of type 1 diabetes. Do you have like other like benefits you feel immediately when you go for a short run, for instance?
Yeah, you said it well. Consistency is very key. So there's a lot more benefits to your health if you go running 3 times 20 minutes as opposed to 1 time 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes like 20 minutes, it won't matter, right? It does, right? So that consistency is very important. I see benefits. I love to see, I see benefits immediately, meaning when I'm on the road with work, I don't have time to go run for 90 minutes before breakfast. I'll do what I can. I have many runs where I go for 20 minutes. So there's no performance increase. It's good for my health. And the reason I do it is for mental equity the day of. Like I know I'm going to be sharper in my 10 o'clock meeting if I go for a 20-minute run. And this is very powerful because you get to see, you get to taste and take advantage of the benefits now, today. You're not going for a really hard run and then your goal is a half marathon in 6 months, and you're feeling good now. So that's why we should exercise. And remember
I feel this
movement.
becomes I feel this becomes a cycle. Like the more you do it, the more you want to do it, and the less you do it, the less you want to go out.
Yeah.
And so what brings you to do these extreme challenges or these like long endurance races? What do you find interesting in those?
So the exercise part, the athletic part of it is the tip of the iceberg. What I really love about those big challenges is, I mean, it's the team. It's becoming a family. It's the relationships you create. It's feeling like I'm learning something, like I'm growing, like I'm helping others. Um, just seeing what you can achieve, and then possible grows every year, right? Because those challenges give you confidence. You learn so much on managing type 1 diabetes so that you're more confident when you tackle bigger challenges, or like the day-to-day isn't as stressful. So it's the part that people see, Race Across America. And then we determined that I wasn't like, I'm not going to talk about Everest because that's 15 years ago. And, everybody has heard my Everest stories. Race Across America, 2022, toughest ultra cycling event in the world. That's twice the distance of the Tour de France in half the time. So 4,800 kilometers. And what makes the race special, you have 12 days. One more minute, you get a DNF. You're disqualified. So if you do the math, the absolute slowest you can be is 400 kilometers a day, 12 days straight, but that's right on cutoff. So if you want to finish the race, you have to be at 400, 500, 600 kilometers a day. It's 100 grams, like 50, 75, 100 grams of carbs per hour, 22 hours straight. So you're in kilograms of glucose ingested every single day. Team of 10 people, 3 vehicles, logistics in operation 24/7. So it's a massive challenge. So there's so many moving pieces. Diabetes being one of them. Like, how do you manage insulin when you're ingesting 100 grams of carbs per hour, and then it could, like, day 5, 6, 7, 8, cognitively you're gone. So there's that transfer, a full transfer of your diabetes management to the team. And there was a point where I don't even have visibility in my glucose anymore. They take care of everything. Like, they're giving me food and they're like, eat this now. And, so if I see like nuts and fat, then I assume my blood sugar is a little higher. I just need calories. And then when they're like, hey, do you feel like drinking a Pepsi? I'm like, okay, like I'm probably trending down. But I need the carbs and the calories. So relying on your team, building that trust is, so I'm going in all sorts of directions. Massive challenges, ultra complex event, and very rich, very fun. Like, the team is why I do these. It's fun. You want to have fun and you become a family. It's all of it that I absolutely love.
I can understand if you're gonna have total confidence in them for managing your diabetes in this very extreme situation. I mean, the bonds between each other must be really special.
Yeah.
So either for small workouts or massive challenges, I mean, there are probably many different kinds of obstacles. People with type 1 diabetes face more obstacles maybe than someone that doesn't have diabetes. For instance, so this is a survey that was done with people living with type 1 diabetes, and what came out is that the fear of hypoglycemia was their biggest obstacle to actually practicing regular physical activity, and also the having the impression of losing control over their diabetes. And then, of course, we all face obstacles, challenges when we have to fit in a workout in our work schedule, or we lack motivation, or the temperatures, especially living in Canada. I mean, you can easily get discouraged with the temperature when you're trying to go out to work out. Are those challenges you still have? Do those change over time when you get more and more experience?
I still have them all. Fear of hypoglycemia never goes away. And by the way, my A1C is not perfect. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it slides up. It just I have hypos, I have hypers like everybody. I travel the same roads and I'm not always motivated. So this is always so important for me to share that part. It doesn't get easy, and every day is a challenge. Now the challenges can change a little bit. What I'll say is that sometimes people look at the things I've done and go, "Oh my God, like I can't even go for an hour run or walk." And ironically, these things, well, diabetes can be a bit easier to manage during a race, or not. But I mean, I've had good races, and the reason is it becomes your job. That's the only thing you got to do and think about. Like everybody, like I have a busy life. So the challenges, sometimes you plan everything perfectly. You reduce your bolus or you drop basal insulin, and then there's a delay in your day, and then you go running or exercising an hour and a half later, and you took less insulin, so your blood glucose is going to slide up, and you did everything right, and now you're starting your blood glucose and you're high. Your workout and you're high, or the opposite. You have a busy day and you totally forget to take the actions you got to take before a workout in regards to insulin and carbs, and you're ready to go, but you've got too much insulin on board, and there's nothing else than carbs that's going to allow you to, so yeah, it's definitely always a challenge.
There's a lot of I think definitely planning the physical activity can make it maybe easier to manage when you're able to lower your insulin beforehand. But then of course, life gets in the way, or you haven't planned and you want to go out. And so definitely it can be an additional challenge.
One thing that I'll say, so fear of hypoglycemia drives us to take too much carbs before, right? You're like, just in case. And so very key to me, that's an important message. Take data-based decisions, not fear-driven decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we I don't know, you always go high for some reason, and still you do nothing, or you take carbs because you're scared of that hypo. So like, look at the data, look at the science, and be prepared. Like a low blood sugar, if you're prepared, that's discomfort. And then with the technology we have now, you can see it coming, right? If you've got a continuous blood glucose monitor, if you're not prepared, that can be a disaster, right? So my coach developed a really amazing strategy. He's a type 1 diabetic, and for example, it was specific to a half Ironman. And then when you looked at the strategy, it was crazy scary. It felt like suicide. And it was like you took insulin on the starting line. And when you look at the data, the insulin, and it's specific to half Ironman, so you're not in the water for as long. And it was specific to an athlete that's, you know, a 415, 430, 445 Ironman. But you look at the curves, you look at insulin absorption, and then glucose muscle intake that goes up 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours deep in the race. Everything made sense. And I've added half Ironmans with a flat blood sugar at like 5, 6, 7 for 4 to 5 hours. So to take data-based and science-driven decisions is really important.
Mm-hmm. I like how you say that. I mean, it really has to be something like rational to be able to, and not let your emotions sort of make you go away from the plan. You know, you stick to if it works, stick to the plan. And be flexible, I guess.
Yes, and practice and rehearse and take notes. This strategy, I didn't test for the first time in a race. I tested in training, and I was blown away. And then I fine-tuned it. I still had to fine-tune the dosing and the timing. But so make experiments. That's really, really, really key.
I think anyone living with type 1 knows it's about trial and error, not only in sports, but when you manage different meals in different stressful situations. And I think you can really, if you take an approach where you learn from the situations instead of getting discouraged, for instance, that can be a way to grow and learn to manage.
It's going to sound cheesy, but tolerance to imperfection is really important with type 1 diabetes. There's nothing cooler than time and range. Now, this data that we now have and now I look at it every day, literally. And it just allows for imperfection. Like, all right, I'm 75% in range. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. I'm 80% in range. You know, so that's really, really huge. And focus on.
And with all these numbers coming in all the time, it must. I like how you say tolerate imperfection, like, because you can easily, I guess, get overwhelmed with all these numbers and that are constant.
Yeah, and don't be too hard with yourself. That's really key. Like your time in range for 7 days is 80, and now you made a mistake. It went up to 13. Correct and forget about it. Done. Like, you're not a bad diabetic, and your life is not a disaster, and you're able to exercise, and everything's fine. Could have been much worse than type 1.
With diabetes, I mean, there's variability in this. If you live the same situation, for instance, of a specific workout, if you're able to manage it one day, well, you have to keep in mind that the next day it might not work the same way. And it might not work like what you do might not work for someone else either. Yeah. So I think you have to like remain flexible in the way you approach it.
Yeah. One more is don't tolerate, don't be too hard on yourself, but don't tolerate something that's suboptimal every day. And I'm including myself in this. Sometimes we're guilty of always having the same high. Like, you always go high after breakfast. You always go low when you do, I don't know what. Don't tolerate it. If it's happening every day, it's happened every day for the last 6 months, 6 years. You have to take action. It's typically very simple. And the challenge with diabetes, whenever I look at my graphs and my numbers and things are not perfect, it's very rare that the high or the low is unexplained. I know why. So what's challenging with type 1 is not to know what we should do. It's to do what we should do. And it's 24/7. Like, it's impossible to always think about your diabetes and always pre-bolus. But when we pre-bolus, that's a simple thing, right? We got lazy with modern insulins, and we bolus and we eat. That's, to avoid that postprandial peak, you need to bolus 5, 10, 15 minutes in advance. Again, you have to be smart. If my blood sugar is 4.5 and I'm about to eat pizza, I'm not going to pre-bolus. But if I'm an 8 and totally comfortable to bolus 5, 10, 15 minutes before the meal. And this is the easiest way to get rid of all your postprandial peaks.
It shows the importance of keep learning throughout your life. I mean, because there's so much, there's so many tweaks that you can bring in to improve the management, that of course you can't do that 24/7 like you said, but when you do sit down and think about it, there might be stuff to learn and some resources to go and look for. Before we move on to resources, actually, we had this image of an iceberg, which has about not even the half of the factors that impacted the blood sugar during life and during physical activity more specifically. So when we look at your child, what you've done, I mean, we see that your performance, so we might see the blood sugar, but then there's everything below the sea level where everything you have to keep in mind, a lot of things you don't have control over. So
Yeah.
I find it's quite impressive, to put it that way.
This is probably my favorite slide. This is so important to understand. The thing we hear all the time is, I did the same thing than yesterday and my blood sugar is different. Well, there's 50 things pushing your blood sugar up or down. So you can't look at, like, of course you had the same amount of carbs but your blood sugar is different. Well, that totally makes sense. If 17 other things are different, right? So you can't look at 3 things you did identical to yesterday and say I did the same thing. No, there's 47 things, right? So the big mistake is to look for what works. And it's not that. It's not a recipe, it's an equation. And so every day you want to look at the data you have, current blood sugar, what you're going to do. Like my correction factor is not the same if I ride 5 hours today and then tomorrow I have a day off. So everything's going to be entirely different tomorrow, even for the same amount of carbs. So you really want to look at today's data and then think and then take decisions and adapt every single day. What works with type 1 diabetes only works once. So
don't get discouraged.
Yeah. So, and we hate diabetes, not when your blood sugar is like, you flatline like for 5 hours at 6. You don't hate your diabetes when it's, good. So you hate diabetes when you're low. You hate diabetes when you are super high and you feel crappy. So it's very important to be willing to adapt every single day and do what's required, even if it's more work.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get discouraged, or how do you deal with the highs and lows during when you're training, or if you have to stop, or?
I have highs and lows, mentally, psychologically. Again, I'm like everybody. It's been I think diabetes has been a gift, but I still hate it from time to time. So I mean, the team, you're talking about it helps. Don't do this alone. This is probably one of my most important message. Don't do this alone. Talk about it. Don't hide it. Find people who do the same thing that you do. If I'm an athlete, right? I'm sure there's musicians here. Find other musicians with type 1 diabetes. You share the same challenges, and so don't do this alone. Always learn. That's our responsibility to learn. We're probably going to talk about it on this slide. And then just, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't bring to yesterday into today. Like, I have days where I don't like it, or I have to cut a training short. I try to learn from it and then move on.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very positive attitude when you're able to do it. Mm-hmm. So you were talking about going to find help, finding people that have similar interests and who you might learn from. I'll just take this opportunity to show what we have on our Better website. We actually have a lot of different tools you can download. So that on the type1better.com website, we've developed some practical guides. So this one that we've shown is on the effects of the different types of exercise. So you can sort of try and better understand how your blood sugar varies during different types of exercise. We also have some on the insulin modes of action, because I find that knowing how your insulin works is really like a basic knowledge to have when you're managing diabetes daily. So there's example of snacks, what to do on sick days, and there's a bunch of different resources you can go and check it out. So the last part of our talk is, are there limits to what you can do with type 1 diabetes? I think you're an example that doesn't seem to set, you don't seem to set yourself limits. But no. Would you say someone with diabetes can pursue any dream?
Well, of course. I mean, the short answer is yes. You know my answer. Mm-hmm. There's not many professions left, or not any professions left, or things you can legally cannot do with type 1. There's commercial pilots with type 1 now. And a while ago there were not. It was not possible. And someone said, I really want to do this. And they worked really hard, talked with the authorities, created protocols. It took years, right? But they opened up that path for everybody else after them. So if there's something impossible, make it happen. And it's not going to take a day. It's going to take years, but we'll see how bad you want it. And there's so many athletes, in so many different sports doing extraordinary things with type 1 diabetes at a very high level. Olympians. We've got type 1s going to space now. So I think the attitude and the posture is very important. If there are parents here with a child or children with type 1 diabetes, please know your attitude and your posture is going to be the one they adopt. You'll be a mirror. So if it's always hard, it's always the end of the world, and it's just a burden. Even if you say nothing, they can see the burden on your shoulders. They're going to hate it, and it's going to be a burden to them. So your attitude is very important, and be flexible, keep it fun, and cheat from time to time. Not often, but it drives me crazy when sometimes I see on support groups, it's my kid's birthday, can I give him cake? Or do you guys know any chips that are for type 1 diabetics? I'm like, give them regular chips, like just once. Don't do that every day. But like you want your kid to have like the boring diabetic chips, and then his buddies having Doritos and ketchup. Like, give him real chips. Like, learn to work with bolus combo or correct later. But they have to be children and have fun. And if your diabetes is your blood sugar is in range, 75, 80, 85% of the time, you're doing really, really well. And there's not going to be complications or nothing major anytime soon. So have fun.
Mm-hmm. I like how you have to start, like, so we've been talking about like strategies and how to manage and how to cope, but I think if you can live the life the most normal you can, I mean, it would be very beneficial, of course. Yeah, not just for kids, for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone can have chips. Yeah.
I mean, we all know someone with an A1C of 5.5, but trust me, I don't want their lives. So it's a personal choice. I'm not giving advice here, but and I'm not judgmental, but like, it has to be fun, because the mental burden can be heavy, and then if you're always stressed and if you're always frustrated, you may get other diseases that are a lot worse than type 1 diabetes. Well, I'll stop here before I get in trouble.
We would have time for, so thanks for this. This was really interesting. We would have time for questions now. If Nathalie, I don't know if we have questions online.
Right now, there's no Q&A. I can say I really like what you said.
So we're inviting people to write down questions.
Yeah, you can still, but I have one if nobody has one. What is the thing you learned the most during all your journeys? About yourself or about T1D as you like?
I learned many things. I learned that possible expands. I learned that dark time always pass. I learned that if you have a great team, you can accomplish extraordinary things. I learned that resilience is a practice, not an attribute. I learned that what's really important is to try having an impact on others, not your marathon time. And I became very optimistic. I was not as optimistic as now. I think optimism is really an important quality. Yeah, so these are the things I've learned.
Oh, thank you. I like to hear that. And I like what you said about, don't be hard on yourself and tolerate imperfection. I think that's really important, especially maybe for parents having a child living with type 1 diabetes, because we always looking for perfection, but it's clearly not possible. So yeah. Thank you for that message.
And if there's anyone who's disappointed that I didn't go into specifics, when I run, I take this much insulin and I eat this and this much carbs. Happy to answer a few questions there. But back to the icebergs slide. I get questions like this. I have troubles when I go running. What do you do? I get emails and so it on social media all the time. So for me to answer that question, I have to ask 12 questions before I make an informed answer, before I can formulate an informed answer, because everybody's a little different and the context is different. So, but happy to venture that way if anyone has questions.
Well, yeah, there's one question. Someone saying they cannot use a CGM because of a skin reaction to adhesive. So they've tried both freestyle and Dexcom, same reaction. So any advice on this? The person pricks his finger 10 times a day instead. Any ideas?
So if you've only tried to slap a freestyle or Dexcom on your skin and it didn't work, there's other solutions that you can explore.
We have if you go to our website, there's products you can put before you put your CGM on to act as a sort of a barrier between the skin and the CGM. And if you go on our website on the PDF section, you'll find a list of these products that can help.
Yes. So so ask questions. Don't just because it doesn't work, assume it won't work. And trust me, a lot of people have the same problem. You're not alone, right? And this is quite simple, right? So keep looking, ask questions. Your medical team probably could help. Other patients could help. Diabetes forums. Don't limit yourself to Canada. Sometimes there's different products available elsewhere, but I would continue to investigate.
So maybe second question and probably the last. Amanda is questioning, did you ever had a low during open water swim, and do you have sugar in your wetsuit?
Great question. The short answer is no. I had a lot of lows in the pool where I'm testing a lot of strategies. so that when I'm racing, when I'm in the water, I did a 10-kilometer open water swim last summer. I wanted to try something different. And I didn't have a low, but I did have to carry sugar on me because it's 10 kilometers. So it's not for the low, it's for the athlete. You need to fuel, you need to feed if you're going to be exercising for 3 hours.
Interesting. So you always have sugar on you, whatever.
Always.
Always.
Always, always, always. Right now, I'm mostly running. So weekdays, like I don't run for 5 hours on a Tuesday evening. Like I'm normal. So when I go for a 45-minute run, it's very rare that I'll need sugar. I have sugar all the time. And I don't have just one gel. I have 2 or 3. Like I'm bulletproof.
That's the case. Well, thank you very much for answering those questions and for being here with us tonight. It was pretty interesting. Before we all let you go for the evening, I just want to let you know that our next event will be a webinar on sleep. So if you're not part of the registry yet, well, I invite you to register. You can scan the QR code here or go on our website. All the info is there. And that's it. So thank you everyone for being here with us today. Thank you, Sebastien. Thank you, Emily. And have a really nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.